Hi, I'm Gabriella, and today I'll be presenting mental health. We should talk about it. Here in Canada, we tend to brag about the fact that we have a good healthcare system. It seems especially great when compared to the US, where every single little treatment costs a fortune. When it comes to physical health, we've got it pretty well covered, but what about mental health? Most psychologists charge over $150 an hour, and it isn't covered by standard insurance, making the service relatively inaccessible. To make it even worse, our society has stigmatized mental health. People are then scared to ask for help and feel alone in their situation, even though 1 in 5 people in Canada will suffer from a form of mental health problem or disorder. I mean, just think about all the people around you. 1 in 5 of them are most likely suffering from a mental health problem. These numbers really get shocking when you put them in a familiar context. But if it's so common, why do we stay quiet about it? Mental health problems are usually seen as a form of insanity or a weakness, and nobody really likes to be seen that way. Our society tends to retain that mental illnesses are a problem or a burden, or in more extreme cases, a disgrace to the family. I mean, can you imagine that? But they don't tend to remember the fact that these mental health problems are treatable. And that's because mental health is such an abstract concept that most people don't really understand until they actually experience a problem with it themselves. So the best thing to come up with is just smile, be happy, or the worst of them all, get over it. I mean, the truth is that simply being happy won't work. Mental health problems are the single most disabling disorder worldwide, and its damage is still seriously underrated. And it doesn't only affect a certain group of people. It can affect anyone, which is why we need to start talking about it. Now, what would happen if we started educating our society? Chances are that people will be more open to talk about how they feel because the subject won't be so taboo. Schools may also reduce their workloads because of the negative impacts on students' mental health. When someone is suffering from a mental health problem, chances are that the people around them will react better to the situation. Talking about mental health won't only help those currently suffering, but also prevent any extreme cases from occurring. Currently, suicide is one of the leading causes of death from adolescence to middle age, from adolescence to middle age, sorry. And over 50% of these deaths are due to a major depression. And if you add depressed alcoholics, that number goes up to 75%. I mean, just think about it. Over 75% of deaths due by mental health problems that are treatable. Now, a great place to actually start talking about it is in schools. The best part is we don't even need to add an extra class or anything. We could just add it to, say, 9th grade biology. They already talk about all the systems in the body and any illnesses that can affect them. So it'd only be logic if we talked about mental health while talking about the nervous system. This would not only educate our society, but it would also normalize it about mental health. But 9th grade is too late to actually start talking about it. We need to start educating children when they're still in elementary school, because that's when they determine what's okay to talk about and what's not. And I know every person in this room is thinking, these children are so young, so innocent. How could they handle something as heavy as mental health? Now, that problem can be solved by the way that we approach the subject. If we introduce mental health through storybooks, it will develop children's empathy without traumatizing them with all the negative impacts of mental health. So when they're older, they will be more likely to understand what is mental health and be able to help anyone who may be suffering, or if they even suffer from it themselves. Multiple studies and surveys show that millennials are the most stressed generation, closely followed by Gen Z, which means that the people that are going to build the future of our society are under tremendously more pressure and stress than any other generation before them. If we don't start talking about mental health, more and more people will be suffering in silence, and suicide rates will keep climbing. Now, some companies have taken initiatives to start a conversation about mental health, like the Bell Let's Talk About It movement. But the thing is that these campaigns won't cut it. And that's because they only reference the subject for such a short amount of time without talking about the causes and consequences brought by these mental health problems. And people only really contribute to it because they say they're making part to the greater good or something along those lines. And the worst part of it is that this isn't a preventative measure. It's a reaction to an increasingly common issue. So there are many ways that we could help people that are suffering. But the best way, in my opinion, is through education. So let's use our voices and start talking. Thank you.